Moscow's icy skyline is flickering tonight, not with the golden glow of wealth and power it once knew, but with the dim, cold shadows of a crumbling empire. For years, Vladimir Putin's circle of oligarchs stood as untouchable titans. There, fortunes built on oil, gas, and political loyalty. But now, the once mighty pillars of Russia's billionaire elite are collapsing in a wave of financial ruin. Betrayal and fear, a spectacle the world is calling the oligarch bloodbath. The unraveling began quietly, almost imperceptibly. At first, there were whispers in high-end restaurants along the Moskva rivers, subtle conversations over crystal glasses of vodka, guarded glances over fur collars. But soon, the whispers turned into panicked phone calls, hurried transfers of funds to offshore accounts, and desperate attempts to flee Moscow under the cover of darkness. Russia's billionaires, who once boasted of yachts longer than football fields and palaces dripping in gold, are now watching their empires sink beneath the weight of sanctions, political infighting, and an economy on the brink. One of the most symbolic collapses came from Igor Mikhailov, a steel magnate whose factories once thundered day and night, feeding both the Kremlin's coffers and Russia's industrial pride. Igor had been a loyal soldier in Putin's economic army, funding political campaigns and lending his private jet to high-ranking officials. But when foreign sanctions froze his accounts and seized his properties abroad, Igor's vast empire crumbled almost overnight. He was last seen leaving his Moscow office in a modest black sedan, a security convoy gone, his face pale, his eyes hollow. It's not just Igor. Across Russia, oligarchs are losing everything, some to financial collapse, others to mysterious accidents that critics say are anything but accidental. Roman Belikov, a tech tycoon once hailed as Russia's Elon Musk, was found dead in his luxury penthouse under suspicious circumstances. His closest allies insist it wasn't suicide, but a chilling warning to others who might try to distance themselves from the Kremlin. Meanwhile, the Russian people, long forced to watch this elite class live in obscene wealth while ordinary families struggled to afford bread, are witnessing something they never thought possible: the fall of the untouchables. In working-class neighborhoods from St. Petersburg to Novosibirsk, the mood is complex, a mixture of quiet satisfaction, angst, belief, and hope that maybe, just maybe, this marks the beginning of a new chapter. But Putin, the architect of this empire, is not watching passively. Sources inside the Kremlin describe a man surrounded by paranoia, convinced that Western intelligence agencies are orchestrating the oligarch exodus. His once unshakable control is showing cracks. Loyalists are turning on each other, each desperate to save their own fortune and freedom. Even within his inner circle, alliances are breaking apart, replaced by suspicion and whispered plots. The turning point came when a group of mid-tier oligarchs, those wealthy enough to wield influence but not powerful enough to escape Putin's wrath, secretly gathered in a private villa on the outskirts of Moscow. They spoke not just of survival, but of change. Some argued for negotiation with the West, others for cutting ties with Putin entirely. It was a dangerous conversation, one that, if discovered, could cost them their lives. Yet they spoke anyway, driven by a realization that the empire they had helped build was no longer protecting them. This oligarch bloodbath is more than just the collapse of fortunes. It's the collapse of a system that thrived on fear, loyalty bought with gold, and the belief that power could last forever. And it carries a sobering lesson for the world. No matter how vast the wealth, no matter how high the walls of privilege, when an empire begins to rot from within, no one at the top is safe. As the sun sets over Red Square tonight, the Kremlin still stands, its towers lit against the dark. But the light feels different, less like a beacon of strength, more like a fragile candle struggling against a storm. Somewhere in the streets below, ordinary Russians walk with a little more hope, believing that the fall of the oligarchs could one day mean the rise of something better. Asterisk, because in the end, even the mightiest empires cannot survive when their foundations are built not on truth and justice, but on greed, fear, and betrayal. And as history has shown time and again, the people always outlast the tyrants.